What's up guys, John here and welcome back to John Moon Studios. In this week's video we're doing another one on the Nektar Impact LX88 Plus, and we're going to be talking about pad mapping, get a little bit more in depth into how do you map your pads, save them in your presets and you can recall them at any given point. And also we're going to be talking about velocity curves. Also make sure to stay until the end of the video because I've been working on something really special for you guys. So without further ado, let's get right to it. Alright, so we're going to talk about how to program your velocity curve on your pads. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to hit shift and you're going to hit setup, right? So it's the first button in the bottom row and then the last one, shift setup. You're going to see the LCD screen says the word set. Now you're going to go to D2 and you're going to press where it says pad velocity curve. You're going to see that it says PC. In this case I have it on 4 because that's the velocity curve I prefer. So the way you toggle between the different velocity curves is with this plus or minus button here. So this is C3 and C#3. You could toggle and you could see that this number actually climbs up and down. Let me just make sure that you can actually see these numbers move up and down. So you could kind of get an idea. Sorry, I had to look at it over here on my phone. But yes, you can see the numbers that they're moving up here. So if you have it on pad velocity curve number 1, this is going to focus more on the mid to high levels of velocity. So when you press on these pads, you're only going to get to like about, I don't know, like 80 to 127 or something like that. So when you switch over to velocity curve number 2, you're going to actually work on the lower dynamics of the velocity curve. So you're going to work from about 0 to, let's say, 80 or so, and that's the kind of velocity curve you're going to have. So you're going to have super softs, and you're only going to go about, to middle. Depending on how hard you hit it, you won't ever reach the 127 value of velocity. You only get to about, again, like 80, maybe even 100 or so. So if you go up to the next level, which is velocity curve number 3, this only focuses on the higher velocities. So when you hit the pad, doesn't matter how soft or how hard you hit it, you're going to be hitting from like probably 100 up to 127. This is good for, let's say you're drum padding, some beats, and you want to get like your drum section to always kick hard, the snare always to pop out. This is probably a good velocity curve to kind of use, and you could always get the sound that you want. Again, some of these velocity curves, it's not really much of a stylistic choice, or the one you feel the most comfortable with, at least for, well, it could be both for the keyboard and the pads, but you can also choose it depending on the genre that you're playing. So the fourth velocity curve, so there's 4 different velocity curves that you could choose that's dynamic. The other 3 that I'm going to show you is going to be a fixed velocity, and you'll see in just a second. So the fourth velocity curve focuses on the linear kind of velocity curve. So this actually encompasses all of it, from the very lows to the very highs. So this one is actually the most sensitive. You could really, just kind of touch it and you'll get the softest velocity curve that sample library offers. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the PF1, right? So it's pad fixed velocity 1. And this one it's only fixed at velocity curve 127. So again, this is, you hit it and it will play at the loudest possible volume that you can get from the sample library. When we go to fixed velocity 2, you're going to get about 100 of your velocity curve. And then when you go to fixed amount number 3, you're going to get about 64. So you could see that you could kind of play around with these velocity curves, again, depending on what genre you're doing, and you can get some really good results using the pads here. These pads are super powerful when it comes to that. So now we're going to go ahead and talk about the keyboard velocity curve, which you can also switch with the setting of velocity curve. So there's velocity curve and then there's pad velocity curve. So in order to toggle the velocity curve, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to hit shift, which is the button all the way to the left in the bottom row, and then you're going to hit setup, which is the button all the way to the right in the bottom row. you're going to see the word set, and you're going to hit velocity curve. And then you'll see the UC2, right? So the curve number 2. And we're going to go down to C1. So the C1 is pretty much the same thing as the pad. So you're probably going to get most of the mid to high velocities. If you switch up to style number 2, then you're going to focus more on the low to mid velocity. If we move up to 3, you're going to focus on only the higher velocities. Next, we have the fourth velocity curve, which is linear, which means that this is the most flexible. You could play super soft, but you can also play very loud, depending on how hard you hit the keyboard. Now we're going to move on to our fixed velocities. So the first one is going to be the highest. So this is all 127, value of the velocity. Number 2 is going to be the 100 velocity curve, and then number 3 is going to be a fixed value of 64. This is super useful to know that the Nektar Impact gives you all of these options, simply because when you're playing, sometimes you just want to get really low velocity curves. You're playing, I don't know, some kind of piano sound, some kind of whatever drum sound, and you want to get the exact velocity curve for it. So let's go ahead and demo some of these velocity curves now that we kind of know what they do. Let's go ahead and demo some of the pad velocity curves. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of the setting menu, open it up again, and go into the velocity curves for the drum pads. I'm going to go ahead and start at velocity curve number 1. So this is focusing on the mid to high velocity curve. So let's go ahead and check out what that sounds like. Right, so you saw I was hitting it super soft, but I was still getting some good, kick to it. So that's like the mid-range or so. Right, next we're going to go ahead and move on to velocity curve number 2. So this one focuses on the low to mids. So I'm going to go ahead and hit it soft and then hit it harder. You're going to see that we only get super lows, but it doesn't go all the way up loud. You're going to only get that mid velocity curve. So right, so there we have our low to mid. We're now going to switch it to the third preset that they have here, which is going to be the higher velocity. So it doesn't matter how soft or how hard you hit it, you're always going to get a very high velocity curve. Right, so again, this is all based on personal, use, personal touch. You might feel better hitting it harder. You might feel better hitting it softer. So you choose the one that fits you. So now we're going to go ahead and try number 4, which encompasses a linear velocity curve, meaning it depends on how hard you hit it or how soft, and it'll respond. So here it goes. Right, so this is the most dynamic. So this is the one I prefer. I prefer linear simply because I like to feel that I'm hitting it harder, but I also like feeling that I'm hitting it softer. So number 4 is probably the one I would go for. But now we have the fixed velocity ones. So this is fixed velocity 127. Again, doesn't matter how soft or how hard you hit it, you're always going to get a value of 127. Right, so I'm not using both my hands just to make sure that you're able to see everything you're doing. I don't want to cover anything, so I'm just using one hand here so you can see everything. So I'm going to go back to setup, hit pad curve. We're going to see number 2 now. This is a velocity curve of about 100. So here it goes. And now we get to the softest one, which is, I think, at about 60 or 64. So we're going to exit, and now, again, doesn't matter how hard or how soft you hit it, it's a fixed velocity at 64. Alright, so those are the velocity curves for the pads. We're now going to check out some of the fixed velocity curves for the piano. And again, you can mess around with the first four to see which one is more dynamic to you. Everybody could have a different opinion on that, whether, it also depends on how skilled you are on the piano. But let's just look at the fixed velocity curves for the keys. So if we go to setup, you're going to go up to the fixed velocity. So we're going to go straight to 127. So anything I hit, doesn't matter how soft or how hard, it's going to be 127. Alright, so that's extremely loud, and probably not the best idea for a piano. So we're going to go to our second fixed velocity, which is at about 100. And now we're going to go to our softest velocity curve, which is at about 60, 64. So right, so those are the fixed velocity curves for the actual keyboard. Again, the first four, you could try it out yourself to see which one you like better. It really depends on the player and how hard you actually hit the keyboard. So we're going to go ahead and move on to how to save your pads into different presets, which we call pad maps. So the way that we get to different pad maps is, let's go back to our drum set. And you're going to see that we could save 4 different styles of drum pads. Now you could, use this to however you see fits your workflow or your style of music. But we're going to go ahead and just do it with a drum set, and I'm going to rearrange the drum kit in different pads so you can see how I make the pads. First of all, how I do pad learn, which I covered in another video, but I'm going to recover it again here. So how do you, assign pads, notes to pads, and then also how do you save it, and then move on to pad map number 2, and you're going to see some of these colors change here also. We're going to go ahead and map some basic stuff, so a kick, snare, hi-hat, and then your cymbals. Alright, so I'm going to use these sounds here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to map our kick. So our kick is all the way down here at, let's see, this is 3, 2, 1. This is C1. And we want to map it into pad number 1 here. So again, we're going to go shift, but instead of going to setup all the way at the end, we're going to go to the one right before, which is pad learn. So shift, pad learn. And now all you need to do is click on the pad. The numbers will change depending on which pad you're hitting. You're going to hit number 1. You're only going to press the note that you want pad number 1 to be. So the kick. That's it. You have it set up. Now you go to number 2, snare. Go to number 3, hi-hat. Hi-hat. And then number 4 is going to be our crash. And now all you do is shift, pad learn again, and that's it. They're saved into the memory. So Alright, so as you can see, let's actually switch the velocity curve here because it's a little low. So we were in fixed velocity number 3, so of course we're only going to hear very soft sounds. We're going to go into the linear mode. That way it's a little bit more dynamic. So awesome. So now we're going to go ahead and save this pad map. Because again, if you don't save this pad map and I show you this next step, to move to pad map number 2 and then you can rearrange it again, you're going to lose all of your progress and you don't want to do that. Alright, so the way we save pad maps is we're going to press shift and setup. We're going to hit save here at F#1. It's going to say save. I know this looks like a U, but that's a V. This is going to say save. You're going to hit enter. Hold shift. Press pad number 1. It's going to light up only pad number 1, and you're going to see this blinking here. It's going to say P and then 1, and then you can hit enter again. It's going to stop blinking, and you've now saved your pad map. Okay, so now when we move to pad map number 2 in just a second, you're going to see that your settings have been saved. So you could just go ahead and start playing now. Oh, we have to get out of the setup menu, so just hit shift and setup, and then So now let's say I want to rearrange the drum set, put them in a different order, but I don't want to lose this. You're going to hit shift and you're going to hit pad map number 2. So notice when I hit shift, only the first one lights up. You're going to hit pad map number 2, and now the color for all the pads are going to be this yellow or orange, right? So now when I play, we lose all of our progress, but since we saved it before, if let's say you go back, you still have your original pad map. So remember, save after every patch that you make or pad mapping that you do. Save it before you move on to the next. You will lose your progress. So pad map number 2, the same rules apply. Shift pad learn. I'm going to rearrange the drum set now. So pad 1's still going to be kick. Pad number 2 is going to be my snare. Pad number 5 is going to be my hi-hat, and then pad number 6 is going to be my crash. Get out of pad learn, and now we have again, same thing. So now we're going to go shift, setup, save, you press enter, you're going to hold shift, hit pad number 2, press enter again, you're going to let it go, and now your preset has been saved. Shift setup to get out of the menu, and now when you play, when you recall pad number 1, that's still there. So now let's do the same thing on number 3. And this time I'm going to go a little bit slower just in case you didn't catch it the first time. So now we're going to do a different setup. Shift, press number 3. Now it turns yellow. So yeah, this one's yellow, the one before is orange. So now we're going to go to and put, some kind of pad, we're going to do some kind of pad setup here. So we're going to hit P1. Let's say this is going to be still my kick. I want my hi-hat to be on 8. I want my snare to be, 2, just to keep it close to the kick. And then I want my crash, for some reason, I want it to be on 5. Take it off. Now I have, again, saving it. Here we go. Shift, setup. Press save. You're going to hit enter. Hold shift, press pad map number 3. It's going to only light up the yellow pad, so number 3. It's going to blink. You have to keep holding shift here and hit enter again, and you're going to see it stops blinking. You're going to let it go. It comes back online, all your pads. Now you're going to do shift setup to get out of the menu, and now here we have our pad map. If I go back to 2, the arrangement I made was, I think, here. And if I go back to 1, the arrangement I made is right here. Alright, so that's how you save your pad maps. As you can see, there's unlimited possibilities of the things you can do on this. There are 32 different outcomes you can have per project. So let's say you opened up, let's say you opened up a project you had, and now you can lay out 4 different pad maps with 8 slots each. That's a lot of combinations. We're talking about 32 different combinations in there, and that is quite enough. I mean, I only use 8, and I feel like that's a lot. So you can see how much more you can extend the value of this keyboard. As usual, if you have any questions throughout this video, please drop your comments down below and I'll get to them as soon as possible. And as promised, you can now purchase your very own John Moon Studios merch. And today with me, I have 2 samples to show you. I have an official John Moon Studios t-shirt, and I also have a John Moon Studios hoodie. Now these materials are premium quality, you have comfort, and you also have the logo of John Moon Studios to rock with it as well. The link is now available down in the description. You can click on it and you can browse the website to see which John Moon Studios merch fits you. Also, I want to thank my subscribers, I want to thank my viewers who have been supporting me along the way. Without you guys, none of this could have been possible, so a very, very big thank you to you guys. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notification button so you don't miss any of my weekly videos, and with that, Don't forget to share with your musician friends. I will see you all soon.